welcome everyone to this second day of our Imagine Africa Beyond War Regional Peace Conference. We are glad to have you here today. Yesterday, we were focused on knowing World Beyond War and its work at global level and how it started in the continent, African continent. Today, we are going to look at some of the specific key challenges that we have in Africa context, challenges in conflict prevention and peace building work in Africa. So we are the chapter coordinators and emerging chapter coordinators who are here today will share some of their experience or what is happening in their countries. So for this, I want to invite first Jane. Before I invite Jane, I also want to announce to everyone that we also have Shane Guthrie from Peace Brigade International, who will be talking today about some of the peace and partnership opportunities in Africa. And we will have a session to answer some questions if they are. So feel free to write any question, to use the Q&A box to ask questions, and we'll bring them on, bring it up to for everyone. So let me call on Jane. Maybe Greta will share the presentation. So Jane, you have the floor to talk about the challenges in Nigeria. Can you hear us, Jane? Jane, can you hear us? Jane, you are muted in case you are speaking. Can you unmute yourself, Jane?
Yeah, can you hear me? My phone, my laptop got freezed, but it's open now. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay. It's here, Nigeria. It's good afternoon, and it's greeting to everyone all over the world. Based on your timing, Obi Jane, speaking on a topic given to me here in Nigeria, Kaduna precisely, and being a practitioner in peace building and good governance, I deem it fit to accept to speak on this because without peace, there won't be development. So my topic, you can see, is being shared. I'm going to speak on the challenges of conflict prevention and peace building in Nigeria. Can I have the next slide? Okay. Yeah, this is the outline I'll be speaking on, and I won't waste much time because I learned I'm having less than 10 minutes to speak on this. But I know this slide will be shared in case there's some things that I could able to rush and not speak, but I know I will be speaking out. Next slide. Yeah, introduction. Nigeria is a very heterogeneous country and is one of the
We are not hearing you, Jane. Jay is likely frozen.
We can also, because of the, yeah?
Yes, now we can. We lost you for about 30 seconds now.
You said what?
We didn't hear you for the last 30 seconds.
Oh my God, but you hearing me now?
Now fine, yeah.
I'm sorry that I'm speaking to this slide, and I stopped at the second point, which says that the violence in Nigeria has multi-dimensional. We have a lot of violences, like I said, from the military regime to then now democratic regime for over these years.
Nigeria we are hearing you.
Shen. So Nigeria has recorded a lot of incidences of violence, extremisms, violence, armed violence, political violence, different kinds of violence, including even criminality such as kidnapping, armed robbery, banditry, and insurgents. This common concern that has befell Africa, because the privileged few I have visited African countries, and my friends that I've also shared, we have this common concern in Africa. It has heightened insecurity and undermined peace building efforts in Nigeria, and also has affected development. It has caused Africans to be underdeveloped. When you're filing applications, you hear middle countries, underdeveloped countries, and such, you find Africa. Next slide. So as such, Nigeria has been ranked to be 148th country out of 167, which has been ranked to be highly violated in a different way, human rights violation, incidents of killings and all words. So as we struggle this, our Nigerians struggle with these challenges, and I know across Africa, because I know when others speak, you still find these challenges in their own country. And our governments strive to create a stable and prosperous society. There is another angle which has exacerbated this conflict, which is what? Our governance. Our governance and local affairs lack transparency and accountability, which has given these citizens the mistrust not to trust government, because governments of Nigeria operate a closed-door policy, less of citizen participation. They sit up and take decisions, make policies without consultations, without inclusiveness, without even then dish it out to the people. And when the citizen want to inquire, if they are shut down, they are arrested, they are done a lot of impunity. So that has also caused. So the civic space in Nigeria is still struggling and is shrinking every day. So I have this last point saying that peace is the bedrock of social harmony, economic growth, and human development, because you and I know that whenever there is peace, there will be development. Peace attracts diversity of people to build relationships. Without peace, you and I will not be here. We are knowing each other, present even online here. If we don't have peaceful environment, you can't come together to have this conference. So it also helps to create investments and promote human development. Next slide. So I will not stretch more on this objective. I feel when I share this after this presentation, we'll be able to see the state of nation of Nigeria, see the challenges we are passing through, which has made efforts of peace building as if it's not there. For over the years, governments, civil society, INGOs, different set of people have been working tirelessly to see that peace, lasting peace in Nigeria, but because of these challenges, which is deep-rooted, we are still struggling. Then also share strategies that will be in immense help in addressing it. Next slide. Yeah, I would also watch, I gave this as for you to have overview of how Nigeria is situated and created. Like I said, we are heterogeneous and complex nation, and we are shared in different zones, northern zone, southern east, southwest zone, south, with the federal territory capital as our state capital. So when you look at this slide, you see it, I don't want to make this slide look so bogus. I make it very concise, but in each regions, there's these common things that happen. Communal clashes in FCT, insurgents in FCT, political violence is very high in FCT. Southeast, kidnapping, armed robbery, gang group clashes is very high, more than political and communal clashes. In the northern regions where I have been for years, done my work extensively, it is more, very high. Insurgent attack, you can hear it's a global news about when Boko Haram was up, terrorism was up, and now kidnapping is also part of it, sectarian activities, religious conflict, herders, farmers, electoral violence in the north is very high. Yeah, in the Southwest also experience more of domestic violence, sexual violences and harmful practices. It's rated more there. In the South side, you have militancy, armed group clashes, armed robbery, gang group, and all what. Next slide, please. Yeah, I put these definitions to help us get what we mean. Yeah, I know you know about conflict, you know about violence, you know about everything. It's never new. But for us to have this holistic understanding exactly what is conflict, whenever we could not understand ourselves, in our opinion, maybe when I'm sharing something now, somebody may misunderstand me. And when I could not address that misunderstanding, it leads to quarreling, antagonism, then action that can cause opposition. Conflict is part of human nature. You can't get that. You can avoid it. In as much you're a human being, in as much you can interact, you can move around, meet other people, there is bound to be conflict. Conflict is normal. That it can be negative, there may be positive. It can create changes, that desire changes. But what becomes negative more is violence. Violence is a physical force that perpetrates actions that are harmful to people, animal properties, environment, causing pain. Conflict does not cause pain. Violence causes pain, injuries, damages, or death. Violence in every form, such as physical, domestic, sexual, ethno-religious structure, they are all dangerous, and it has undermined peaceful work we are doing in Nigeria. Next slide. Yeah, let's get what is peace. Peace is state of love, quietness, and mutual understanding. It's absence of societal disturbance. Whenever you are in an environment that you are not having any disturbance, that means that environment is very peaceful to you. You have a state of harmony, state of quietness. Then peace building is just a slight difference to peace because you are putting more effort, more actions to make that atmosphere to be lasting peacefully. Or there is a conflict, the actions that you put in to resolve that conflict. It's also a systematic plan and gradual means to sustain the effort that people has been putting in place to make sure that the society ultimately remain in state of harmony, while diverse people coexist peacefully. Next slide. Yeah, I gave this concept so that I can give us the holistic nature of Nigeria. In Nigerian context, historically, from 1996, that Nigeria has witnessed exacerbated, it's typo, armed violence. It is recorded that over 60,000, we still struggle with data here. You see different set of data, but with this, it's just what we have now, but it's over 60,000 lives have been lost and some properties destroyed. Over the regions, properties destroyed, government properties, personal properties, business properties, cars, bonds, whenever there is violence. People want to express themselves violently by destroying things, by killing people. So according to National Bureau of Statistics, within this poverty index survey, says that over these 36 states and FCT, at about 33%, at 33%, now we have 216.7 million people. Then out of these million people, 63% of the people, both men, women, children, and all, are poor. Then why 72% live in the rural area and earn less than $1? They cannot afford their basic needs. Next slide. So you can see this information here I shared in the source. So now Like the Nigerian context I've just said, and the statistics that I put, what drive this violence that we are having, which has caused a lot of challenges to us. From the economic angle, poverty rate. Poverty stands very high. That's because people cannot afford their daily means. They can't earn enough to cater for their needs. They become violent. They are not happy with the government. They are not happy with situation. Right now, Nigeria is expressing a total hardship. Anti-democratic government, authoritarian government, governments wake up with diverse policies that are inhuman. So people are struggling to eat, people are struggling to survive. Secondly, food insecurity, like I just mentioned. Climate change has worsened environments. Whenever there is chaos, there is war, there is problem, it has made food insecurity. We don't have enough food. People are hungry. People are striving to survive. People are striving to eat. You plant, things don't make anymore like that. So again, we have challenges of even allocation and distribution. Like I just mentioned, some regions are getting more resources, national resources than the others. They felt marginalized, and that has aggravated a lot of agitations around. You can attest to what I'm talking about from the global news. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, social angle. Yeah, social angle, we have inequality and injustice. I'm on the social. Can you go back? Yeah, we have inequality and injustice, high unemployment rates, inadequate infrastructure. You know, like I said, the ones that we have has been gone down. So we have some schools closed, some schools burned down. Our children are out of school because there's no facility. Our electricity, some police stations, some vandalization that happened during conflict. There is high level of drug and substance abuse. When you get the slide, you can see the information I did because of time. Yeah, another issue I find, because aside the poverty rate, people, even the educated, because of the level of hardship, as if they're not even educated enough, people take laws in their hands because of angry. They are not happy with situation. Some are illiterate. They don't even go to school at all. They've never accessed any form of education. So we still have illiteracy and ignorance high, especially this exists especially among the young ones. The young ones, some have deliberately refused to go to school because they say, okay, I go to school, I come out, I'm unemployed. What do I have to do with school again? Let me just be myself, do things myself, do business, hawk, and do sort of things like that. We still struggle with terrorism and insurgency, although it has relatively gone reduced, that we still struggle with that in some regions. Ethno-religious conflicts has also been there, because I say Nigeria is heterogeneous in nature, and we have two main religions, Christian and Muslim. These two religions have never agreed since inception of life. One feels superior, one feels lesser, and the other will say, no, you don't need to tell me. It has been an issue. And this has formed every basic of our life. In the social, economic, politics, it has been religion. It must be my own person. It must be somebody from my clan. It must be somebody from my religion. It has been an issue for us, and it has really affected peace building. Even when you come out to speak, they want to look you, oh, where are you coming from? Which religion are you? Honestly, it's a problem here. So let's go to the next slide. Next slide. So we still witness weak governance, and law enforcement and human rights observation is still a problem. Government do not feel any importance of maintaining peace. They felt it's security issue. I have given them money, but they forgot that peace building is everyone's business. And that has affected budgetary provisions. In Nigeria here, aside the security spending, military spending, we do not have expenditure that are given to peace building, proper peace building. It's a problem. So, and it has affected strategic planning too. Like I say in my previous, transparency and accountability is still not yet there. We, the civil society, we always hold government, and government feel we are very antagonistic. We are still investigative, can't let them be. It has been a problem between the civil society and the government, holding them accountable in the promises, holding accountable in the expenditure.
Jane is frozen again. Jane? We can't hear Jane anymore. She has a connectivity issue. So I'll suggest that we move. Oh, we definitely lost her. So I will suggest while Jane come back, and she'll respond to the questions after and explain more of the things she was talking about. In the meantime, I will suggest that we move on and invite Marion, translator from Senegal. Marion was our moderator yesterday. She's the co-coordinator of World Beyond War in Senegal chapter. She's very passionate in peace activism. She started very, very early, and this work had led her to go to several countries, including in Africa, where she has lived in Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and she's now in Senegal. So, Marion, I'm going to give you the floor to share about the context in Senegal.
Thank you very much, Guy. And I hope we're going to have Jane back very, very soon. Hello, everybody. And yes, I'm in Senegal at the moment, and I was thinking of this presentation, and I say, okay, I'm going to talk about terrorism. But I think that Fatoumata from Mali is going to talk about terrorism, so I let her explain this topic that many countries in Africa are facing. So after that, I thought, okay, I could talk about democracy. Then I thought about that too, and because there are elections coming here in Senegal, and I said democracy. Is it relevant to talk about democracy in Africa? Because democracy has been brought by colonization. Before that, there were no democracy in Africa. And as far as I know, Africa was kind of doing better before democracy. And anyway, if we look at the world, at the democracies in the world, let's see. United States of America, it's a democracy. Do we want to be like them? No, thank you. We pass. Who is a democracy? India has the name democracy. That's a joke. This is a dictatorship. Do we want this kind of democracy in Africa? No, thank you. We pass. So we can do way better than that in Africa. So I say, okay, let's not talk about democracy. But I still had to do the presentation today. So I turned to my mentor and role model, who is Wangari Maathai from Kenya. A few years ago, she received the Nobel Peace Prize. And I've read her book. The name is Unbowed. If you want to read it, this is a peace-building, non-violent action guide. This is just a must-read, I think, for all peacemakers around the world. And so, in the end, I've decided to read to you an excerpt of this book, which I think, summarize the challenges we face in Africa and summarize what we do at World Beyond War. So here are the words from Wangari Maathai. A traditional African stool has 3 legs and a basin to sit on. To me, the 3 legs represent 3 critical pillars of just and stable societies. The first leg stands for democratic space. She doesn't say democracy, right? She said democratic space, where rights are respected, whether they are human rights, women's rights, children's rights, or environmental rights. The second leg represents sustainable and equitable management of resources. And the third leg stands for cultures of peace that are deliberately cultivated within communities and nations. The basin or seat represents society and its prospects for development. Unless all 3 legs are in place, supporting the seat, no society can thrive. Neither can its citizens develop their skills and creativity. When 1 leg is missing, the seat is unstable. When 2 legs are missing, it is impossible to keep any state alive. And when no legs are available, the state is as good as a failed state. No development can take place in such a state either. Instead, conflict ensues. Thank you very much.
This is a great lesson. Marian, thank you so much. I think we all have to find this book from Wangari Maathai and own if it is we can build on this to shape our peace building effort in the continent. Thank you so much. And we have Elvis. Elvis is the chapter coordinator from World Beyond War in Burundi. If you can take the floor, Elvis. Are you here, Elvis? Elvis?
Yes, Guy.
Okay. So thank you. So thank you. You are here. So you are the chapter coordinator from World Beyond War in Burundi. So just to remind that you are a medical student and peace activist, and you advocate for human rights since 2017, coordinating young people and students from different universities in Burundi and across East Africa region to exchange on different topics about peace. So if you can share about the context in Burundi, you are very welcome.
Can you share with me slide?
Okay. Okay, here you have it, please. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Can you see the screen, Elvis?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and I'm very sorry for my English. It's because Burundi is a francophone speaking country, but I'm going to try. Okay, I'm going to start by the historic of World Beyond War. Yeah, exactly, in Burundi. Yeah, in Africa, World Beyond War is growing in numbers of of chapters and the volunteers. Burundi Forward Beyond the War started at the beginning of 2020 and agreed as a chapter in 2023 by World Beyond War Global. Next.
We don't hear you, Elvis, anymore. Can you try speaking again?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you so much. So, the vision of What Beyond the War Chapter Burundi, it's at the heart of What Beyond the War Burundi is to see Burundi beyond our violences and establish a culture of peace where human rights are respected. Here, I can say that we are not limited to promote peace because we know that some human rights are not respected in Burundi. And as you know, here in Africa, if you allow yourself to go and just promote human rights, you risk to be jailed and kidnapped. And as a mission, Burundi Forward Beyond War is to nurture new breed of readers through young people's education and empowerment. As you know, as Mandela said, it is by only education that can transform the community. It is also a weapon, as he said. Yeah, thank you. Or next. So, you know, if you want to promote peace, you need some values to share with those who are supporting the vision and the mission. So, as you know, you already know, Burundi exemplified many social tensions, and it's time to unify Burundians. As I said, we are beginning by students from different universities in Burundi because we know that those students are tomorrow leaders. So, and to unify Burundians, there is a need to spread a message of peace based on positive values such as to be humanitarian, love each other, to serve with integrity, to serve with impartiality, and to do all of them with excellence. Next. So here we are going to go with Burundi context. Why youth and others people are interested in promote peace in Burundi? It is something that push us to promote peace. Since gaining independence in 1960, the Burundian people have suffered various cycles of violence characterized by a target massacre of civilians along ethnic lines. Example, in 1993, there was a revenge killings between the Hutu and Tutsi. Those are two ethnics in Burundi that sometimes have a misunderstanding. So in that year, those two parties culminated in a civil war that lasted over a decade. A decade. Next slide, please. Prospect for lasting peace rose with the Arusha Peace Accord, August 2020, which ended the civil war in 2005 and led to democratic elections. I mean, from 2005, yeah, there was democratic elections in Burundi, and the the opposite part, I mean, those who were combating in, and want just to establish peace in Burundi came on the seat since 2005 by the way of democratic elections. Those are sustained negotiations saw the last global group sign in the peace accord in 2008. Subsequent elections in 2010 and 2015 were held in a dramatic atmosphere that included an attempted coup and demonstrations by the opposition. For sure here, many women, many kids, many young people lost their lives because of these tensions caused by the third mandate of the recent President Nkurunziza. He wants to hold the third mandate that is not as written respected the negotiations that took place in Arusha in our constitution. So many young people, women, and children lost their lives during the demonstrations in 2015. Slide next. So I'm going to share obstacles in promoting human rights and peace in Burundi. In the starting, I said that it's very, very difficult to see human rights embraced in Burundi. The reality is, when you incite to fight for human rights, you risk life. And personally, what I'm doing for women rights, I do it like I hide myself and try to defend women rights where I am exercising my medicine work, my medical work activities. Also, gender inequalities at social, culture, and institutional levels remain a reality, and little opportunities are left for women, young people, and vulnerable to play an active role as actors of peace. Here, women are somehow they are they are they are behind of men because they don't catch or at the same level opportunities. And for young people, for instance, young people here in Burundi, they are qualified as no, you are not able to do this, you are not able to do this, and they forget that we are the cornerstone of development and sustainable peace. Because if you want to to make war, you recruit young people. So, and here also vulnerables are left behind because there are no rights that can advocate uh, for people with disabilities and other people. I mean, key groups, key groups, key groups. Yeah. Next slide. Rogi.
You have the slide.
Okay, thank you. Here are some recommendations to fill the gap. To promote human rights and peace in Burundi, as a young people, I need to see some actors who really want to support women, young people, and vulnerable peace initiatives. Secondly, to find the strategies to protect human rights actors and peace activists. Third, to shape the partnership with different actors in practice community. And find a way when people are ensured in making their choice and rights in their lives, because there is a struggle here in Burundi where people are enhanced they want. Here it is in matter of sexual reproductive health and rights. People from Burundi, they have some rights that cannot
We can't hear you, Elvis.
be
Okay, it's fine now.
Okay, I was saying that as a recommendation, we have to find a way when people are ensured in making their choice and rights in their lives. For Burundi people, it is very hard and difficult to have choice in matter of sexual reproductive health, because the government can't want to see people enjoying their choices and rights in that field. So as I said in the last paragraph, here I am working with young people from different universities just to explain them what is right, what is how can have a choice. Yeah, and there can be as also the support to support initiatives that aim to fight against hate speech and embrace social cohesion. This is for social tension. Social tension. Uh, many people, I mean, two groups, Hutu and Tutsi, are not living in harmony because they said that group of people killed our people. And I mean, Hutu said Tutsi killed us. And the Tutsi said Hutu kills us. Here we need non-violent communication. We need also pacific conflict resolution, just to unify them with I mean, so we can help them to embrace social cohesion. Also, we want to organize some capacity buildings online and physical meetings, because I'm here and I don't have to share with clear messages. So young people in Burundi need capacity buildings in matter of peace, resolution conflict, nonviolent communication, and other couples of peace. At the end, we need to find a way to see all chapters of World Beyond War working closely for the cause. Imagine if there is, a joint action that is doing in Africa, in Europe, in US and Canada. That can strengthen us, that can let us see we are not alone in promoting peace. So we need to see all chapters of the Beyond War across the world having some activities that they can work together and promote peace together and share the culture of peace worldwide. Next. So now, from 2023, from the beginning of agreement by World Beyond War Global, I want to share some activities that we performed as a chapter. Burundi for World Beyond War aim to partner with universities and other communities by creating a culture of peace where people live and enjoy their rights. We already have partnered with 4 universities in Bujumbura, in the city, capital of Burundi, and other in up countries, Gitega University and Ngozi Universities, where the students met once a month and exchange on different topics that can open their eyes and see what needs to be done to shape a just and sustainable peace. Next. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Here it was. Yes, thank you. It was 6 May. World Beyond War chapter Burundi celebrate International Day of Living in Peace. That was me. And our this is Leo from Congo, and here students from Ngozi University weekly meeting. How with around the topic how you can contribute in preventing gender-based violence and shape a community where women and marginalized group are enjoying their rights. Here we were at Ngozi University, Apukan University. Next.
You have the next, yeah.
Next, Guy.
Here's the next.
Yeah, here it is what Burundi for World Beyond War organized around the table and discussed about nonviolent communication as a tool of preventing conflict at Burundi University Peace Club. I was sharing on nonviolent communication as a tool to prevent conflict at Burundi University Peace Club. So this was amazing. Ngozi University have a peace kids club here. Our coordinator of World Beyond War at Ngozi University invited those kids just to play, to dance, and just having fun. And games were based on how kids can live in a respecting way. It is just to help them to grow with this culture of loving each other and respecting each other. Next. Next.
Yes, we are at the end of this.
Okay, so there we were at Osongo's University with peace club. Yeah, those are activities that have been doing since our agreement. So if you want to know more about World Beyond War Chapter Burundi, do not hesitate to contact us. Email burundi@worldbeyondwar.gmail.com. On social media, we have Facebook page, Twitter, and you can also visit World Beyond War Global for all information of World Beyond War chapters and yeah, global
Okay.
Global news of World Beyond War.
Thank you so much,
So
Elvis.
I think I am done. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And sorry for my sophisticated English.
Very good English, indeed.
Thank you.
Elvis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing from Burundi. Yes, Burundi for World Beyond War is really achieving some great job. And we heard your call to partner with other peace activists from around the world to make the work move. So thank you so much for the presentation. So we are running, and now I'm going to invite Léon from DRC. Léon, je vais faire passer votre présentation en anglais et vous pouvez parler en français.
Merci beaucoup.
Ok, je cherche. Une seconde. Oh, non, Burundi.
Oui, premièrement, avant que vous
Oh, oui.
notre PowerPoint, nous pouvons commencer par une petite présentation. Moi, je m'appelle Léon Kanyalenga. Je suis membre de World Beyond War DRC. Et à côté de moi, il y a aussi d'autres membres qui peuvent aussi se présenter.
Merci, bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle aussi Monga Mkambo. Je suis le membre de World Beyond War DRC. Merci de m'avoir aussi d'avoir aussi été avec vous dans cette conférence. Merci.
Ok, merci.
Bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle Julien Somora. Moi aussi, je suis membre de WorldBeyond Axi. Je suis membre aussi. Je suis très ravi d'être avec vous.
Merci.
OK.
Merci.
Nous voulons faire
Oui, vous pouvez y aller, Léon. Léon, vous entendez?
Oh no, it's frozen.
Oh, dommage. It's frozen. This is online mission. We used to face this sort of challenges online. We struggled to have Leon yesterday. Today is still difficult, Leon. So when while Leon is trying to figure out his network, since we are running ahead behind the time, I would suggest that we have another presentation. Hope to have Leon back soon. So if Leon, can you hear?
No, I
Leon,
don't think his audio is connected yet.
okay, now he's back.
Okay, his audio is connected now.
Léon, vous nous entendez?
Please unmute Leon.
Vous pouvez désactiver votre micro et parler. Je vais dire, vous pouvez activer votre micro. Oh, still. Léon, vous nous entendez? It's like it's frozen. So definitely we are going to move to the next and hope to have a better connectivity with Leon's before we end this this meeting. So while waiting, Moses, Moses, can you hear us?
Je peux continuer, Guy.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Ok, là je remets la présentation. Alors, vous pouvez parler du contexte de la RDC. Vous voyez mon écran?
Unfortunately, I
La
think
République
it.
démocratique du
Oh,
Congo
there we
fait
go.
maintenant plus de respect de la dignité humaine, circulation illicite des armes, et aussi pauvreté, la faim, déplacement de la population, tant externe qu'interne.
Definitely.
Y compris compte contribuer aux efforts de la promotion de la paix, des droits humains, de la non-violence, du développement intégral de l'homme, de la femme et de l'enfant, et la collaboration pacifique des individus et des communautés et classes sociales congolaises. Point 2, il faut parler du cadre juridique de WorldBeyondWar en République démocratique du Congo. Le cadre juridique de WorldBeyondWar en République démocratique du Congo. WorldBeyondWar DRC fonctionne actuellement sous l'autorisation juridique de l'Organisation de paix pour les opportunités du développement, au code ASBL, enregistré sous numéro justice 112 bar Sud Kivu bar 2852 2009. Vous m'écoutez, Guy?
On vous écoute. Vous pouvez parler du
Merci
contexte.
beaucoup.
Parler du contexte
Okay.
de RDC.
Oui, j'ai déjà parlé du contexte.
Là, je peux passer à la... Ok, ok. Là, on passe à la vision maintenant. Ok, merci.
La vision maintenant, oui.
Ouais.
Vision de WorldBeyondWar DRC. Si nous essayons de réaliser nos activités, de ce que nous pensons, nous sommes convaincus que nous allons atteindre cette vision. Donc, notre vision est de voir la République démocratique du Congo non violente ailleurs. C'est ça la vision. Point 4, nous parlons de la mission. Mission de WorldBeyondWar. WorldBeyondWar DRC a comme mission de
So I think in the meantime we can read and see.
De la non-violence, de la promotion de toutes les communautés et couches sociales congolaises. C'est ça la vision. Objectif de WorldBeyondWar. Nous avons en premier lieu l'objectif général, c'est de promouvoir une culture de la paix. Hiyo ni nani ni hiyo ni moto iko divise. C'est la divise. Oh, ok. Donc, de sauter ou divise. Vision. Mission, voilà.
Okay.
Mission, après mission, c'est objectif. Voilà, objectif général. C'est de promouvoir une culture de la paix, la non-violence et cohabitation pacifique de toutes les couches sociales dans le but de contribuer à de la dignité humaine pour la contribution de tous au développement
I think perhaps we should move on because it's hard to
Yeah.
follow with it breaking
Yeah.
up all the time.
Yeah.
But we will send out the slides afterwards.
à travers les enseignements de la paix, non-violence, cohabitation pacifique, éducation civique, assurer la médiation et la protection des droits humains.
Yes, as you said, definitely we'll have to share the presentation to all those who register so that they hear from the context of DRC. So for the sake of time and good quality of hearing.
Des personnes et des personnes vulnérables. Aussi valoriser les initiatives de développement initiées par les communautés à la base pour la lutte contre la guerre, pauvreté et la faim. Contribuer à l'aménagement.
Can you please tell Leon that the connection is bad? We're going to move on.
Oui, Léon, nous allons partager votre présentation après parce que nous n'arrivons véritablement pas à vous entendre.
À la construction,
Léon?
contribuer à la promotion des droits climatiques.
Alors,
oui.
Oui, nous, on ne parvient pas vraiment à vous entendre. Donc, un sujet que on partagera votre présentation. La qualité d'écoute n'est pas du tout bonne. Donc, on partagera votre présentation. Ici, après, il y a encore, c'est un peu plus fluide. Vous pouvez prendre la parole ensuite pour expliquer encore brièvement le challenge en RDC. Donc, actuellement, nous allons passer à la présentation suivante. Vraiment désolé pour tous les soucis de connectivité. Vraiment, vraiment désolé.
Vous ne me comprenez?
Non, on ne... On ne vous entend pas. On va passer à la présentation suivante. So we are going to invite here next Moses. Moses, are you here?
I don't think Moses is here right now. I know he said he was traveling.
Yes,
so let's move on.
Fortunately, we have the chance yesterday to hear from Moses about the context in Uganda. And now a few minutes for Fatoumata to talk about the terrorism challenge they have in Mali. Fatoumata, are you here? Yes, Fatoumata.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, few minutes, Fatoumata.
Yes, I'm going to. I presented some of the, let me share the screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. As you know, Mali is a French colonized country, a West African country. So the country has witnessed several rebellions since the earlier of its independence. We got 5 rebellions since 1960. But the one who has been multidimensional was the crisis of 2012, which involved a lot of terrorist organizations, which linked create alliance with separatist armed group, the Tuareg in the northern part of the country. Since then, the terrorist operations spread across the region, going to Burkina, Niger, etc. So we have different terrorist organizations, including Jamal Nusrat al-Nusra. We call it Jenin. État Islamic au Grand Sahara is also here. Katiba Masina. These groups are very there are always alliances between these different groups. They put their strength together and make attack on civilians, armed parties, etc. We have Katiba Masina. This is operational in the central part, especially the region of Segu, Mopti. They are very active in those areas. What is really challenging now, the difference, yes, just to highlight that we got the difference between the crisis. We got differences between the crisis in 2012 and other crises is that the rebel group are in alliance with these different terrorist organizations were very armed. They got sophisticated weapons from the Gaddafi army and Algeria. So that really led them to make the attack and sustain their operations in the area. So the state has used both military responses and political solutions to address the crisis. We got a lot of parties coming from France, G5 countries, United Nations multidimensional peacekeeping. So a peacekeeping mission here. We got the political solution was the Algeria peace agreement which was signed between the state and different armed group from the northern area. But this armed group, this peace accord did not involve terrorist organizations. That really contribute to the to make alliances and active and how do we call it, and wage war against the state because they were not signatory to the Algeria peace agreement. So I will move very fast. Are you following me?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Yes, the key challenge is now the peace agreement is stalled because the state is not in good mood to negotiate, and they are the authority, the transitional authority, with in partner with partnership with Russia, they're making some military operations to conquest some of the part of the country who were controlled by these armed groups. We have these jihadists that continue to allies, to make alliances, and they also target communities, vulnerable groups, to recruit them and sustain their attack. We have in these heavy military operations, not only from the side of the state, but also from terrorist organizations. These are really have devastating impact on civilians. So we are very young chapter here because we just started 2 months ago with the support and commitment of Marion. We are recruiting volunteers to come to work together. So we want to put in place peace clubs in Mali, especially we are starting from university. We want to educate young people because we notice that there are so many violences in our university and young people are not get access to peace education here. And also for that, we are conducting a lot of different series of activities. So not to monopolize the time, I'm done. So if you have any questions, I can respond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatoumata, for the vision, for the passion that you have for World Beyond War in Mali. You are very the newest chapter, and you already have lots of project that's very impressive, and we are really happy to support and do this together. Thank you so much. Is there any question? Let's take 5 minutes for a few questions if you have to chapter coordinators. And then we'll go back to Shane from Peace Brigade International. If you have any burning question that we can take online now, we can do it. Yes, yes, we can go directly to Shane, to listen to Shane, and then come back with a question after that. So Shane Guthrie is from Peace Brigade International, and he has worked and volunteered in peace and human rights for 35 years. So I will give the floor to Shane and allow him to introduce himself better than I could do. Shane, thank you for joining us from Australia. We know it is very late at night. Thank you for making this to be here today. You have the floor, Shane.
Thanks. Thanks so much for inviting me. I do have a question for one of the previous presenters, but I'll bring it up in this. Yeah, I'd like to ask the crew from DRC what they think we should do next. I'm a volunteer with Peace Brigades International. I'm currently on the board, and I was a volunteer in various countries in the past. The context of this is that I had the opportunity to travel in October and November, and I've only been home 2 weeks because very helpfully Guy, Elvis and others invited me to visit their groups, and from those connections I got other invitations to visit groups. I went to a peace conference in Geneva, and then there was a Peace Brigades meeting in Portugal, and between that I had 3 weeks to visit Rwanda, Burundi and Cameroon. And my purpose was to understand the work of peace and human rights groups in each place, learn about their context and hear their needs, and then to present the work of Peace Brigades and to discuss if there was any collaboration or partnership that we should get into. And there were 3 basic conclusions from each of these meetings. First of all, it could be that it was really good to hear of the work of local groups and good to present the work of Peace Brigades, but there was no connection. So thanks for presenting. The second outcome from some of these meetings was that there is a local need, but it's not related to Peace Brigade's work. So in that case, I referred or will refer them to other organisations. Or the third possibility is that there might be something for Peace Brigades or a related organisation to do in terms of non-violence work, and we're continuing to discuss that. Peace Brigades International provide protection, support and recognition to local human rights defenders who work in areas of repression and conflict and who've requested our support. We believe that a lasting transformation of conflicts cannot come from the outside, but must be based on the capacity and desires of local people. So we avoid imposing, interfering, or getting directly involved in the work of the people we accompany. Our work is effective because we take an integrated approach, combining a presence alongside human rights defenders on the ground with a network of international support. This is where we work at the moment. We have support groups that provide volunteers and funding and advocacy and campaigning network support in the yellow countries, and in the orange countries are where we do our protection work. I was a volunteer on the Indonesia project from the years 1998 to 2001. And then later, I was on the management committee for the project in Kenya. We also have a big presence in Latin America, and we have a project in Nepal as well. And so it's been on my mind for a long time that we could reach out to organisations in other places. And with Guy's help and with the help of Sylvie from the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and with Elvis's help, they invited me to visit them. And from those connections, they made recommendations, which led on to many, many meetings. So the points that I'm going to present now of what I learned from these visits, first of all, big thank you to the people from World Beyond War who invited me and helped organise the visits. Separate from that, note that the conclusions are based on my observations, and I met with many people, more than just the immediate contacts, some of which are on the meeting today. So the people I met helped me reach out and listen to groups, but they're not personally responsible for my conclusions. What I came away with after listening to groups were these 5 possibilities around nonviolent protection. It seems to me, from everything that I've heard over the last couple of months, is that international non-violence groups should investigate protection programming with groups in Cameroon, especially around the conflict in the southwest. I think there's lots of useful work that international organisations can do around providing protection so that local peace and human rights workers in Cameroon can move towards a peaceful process with that conflict. Secondly, I saw that there's the possibility and the need to establish non-violence training with groups in Burundi for early warning and early response, and that's particularly thinking about the elections that are going to be held in 2025, and that training and early response network should be set up in 2024 because I understand that public gatherings will be banned before the election. So that preparation work needs to happen now and into early 2024. Thirdly, it's not possible, I think, at the moment, to provide protection programming internationally with groups in Burundi, but we should prepare for that when the political situation changes. Efforts have been made in this way in the past, and they've not been successful because they've tried to rush in when there's a crisis. So we should prepare for it now, to implement it when it's possible, before there's a desperate need for it. Fourthly, it's also not possible, as far as I can see, to provide international protection for groups in Rwanda, even though there's a need. However, a step towards that would be to consider or investigate non-violence training with groups in Rwanda around community peace building, which might lead to more solid international connections in the future. And lastly, that international non-violence organisations should consider facilitating regional non-violence strategy with groups across 3 countries, Rwanda, Burundi, and the DRC. I'll now briefly go through my observations from meeting groups in Rwanda, Burundi, and Cameroon, and you can see how I got to some of these conclusions, and then I'll ask for your input. Also, when I show you my broad observations, you'll see that some of them are similar across 2 countries, and some of them are even the same for 3 countries. So you can reflect on what useful activities might come out of that, considering that some observations are the same across 3 countries. I saw very clearly in Rwanda that perpetrators of violence have been very successful in removing human rights defenders. And I mean that in 3 ways. In that human rights defenders have been disappeared or killed. Secondly, human rights defenders have gone into exile because they fear for their safety in the country. And thirdly, some human rights defenders have spoken out in the past and no longer do because they are quite justifiably fearful of violence. So I think this is a serious fact that we need to consider, that perpetrators of violence have been very successful. Secondly, I noticed that there are lots of community peace-building activities, and that's doing very important work. It's limited in the way that these community peace-building activities happen or are permitted because they align with the government's development agenda. And it doesn't change the overall structure of violence in the country. The most outstanding peace activities in Rwanda that I saw were driven by a feminist analysis of power, that talking about equality and understanding the gender dynamics of violence and power, and having a feminist vision of the future, were really driving some great activities, particularly by WAMREC, the Rwandan Men's Resource Centre, and other organisations. I heard lots of chatter about forming opposition parties and how that's failed in the past, and new opportunities for forming opposition parties, and it just seems to be very antagonistic But I did see that human rights coalitions slowly forming and building their strength seem to provide a more effective way to help people on the ground and to open a political space for critique. And that leads on to the next one, is that in some organizations, the long-term leadership and the long-term organizers understood well the political space for action, and they were very strategic about when they made a critique and when they didn't. So following their leadership on that leads to possibilities for cooperation. I heard a lot of interest in collaboration with groups in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, especially when there's violence in border areas with Rwanda. But I didn't hear a clear strategy or idea of what should be done in that space. And the first observation I had in listening to peace and human rights groups in Burundi was the same, that perpetrators of violence have been very successful in removing human rights defenders. I think this is a serious fact that has to be taken into account when talking about peace work. And peace building activities, and there are lots of them. They are permitted when they align with the government's development agenda. So local organisations and international organisations, as far as I could see, do not get to do work that is outside the government's development agenda at the moment. And there was great local peace work that used a feminist analysis of power to talk about non-violence at a community level, but not at a country level, that talked about how we bring feminist principles and talk about equality when dealing with trauma from conflict in the past. There was no clear one way forward on how local organisations can partner with international organisations. There were many different experiences and even some long-standing legal and human rights organisations that are not small or inconsequential suffered negative consequences for having international connections, and they also benefited from having international connections. So there are possibilities for improving international partnerships, but it needs a very careful strategic analysis. In all my meetings with groups in Burundi, there were lots of different ideas about addressing violence, which is helpful, but I found lots of groups didn't know each other or were fearful of meeting and discussing because of their experience. And I think this has led to a lack of a shared understanding. So it's good that there is a multiplicity of activities. The negative bit about that is I didn't see shared understanding and mutual support. I did hear lots of calls for international funding, but what I observed was a lack of awareness of the environment for international support and a lack of capacity to develop partnerships, both with funders or with organisations abroad. So these might sound quite negative, but I think that they point us to some options for partnerships and how we could go about it. In listening to peace and human rights groups in various places in Cameroon, I found several organizations and their members are suffering from distress and perhaps deep trauma through long experience of dealing with authorities and the trouble that that can bring, and perhaps even more strongly, a quite legitimate fear of non-state armed groups. They've just been awful in Cameroon, and I can see that some organizations and their members are deeply affected by trauma, and this is affecting not only their well-being, but also their ability to act. It sounds like a negative point, but I think it points us toward an area of action where international support could be valuable. Again, the peace and human rights activities that really stood out from the rest were driven by a feminist analysis of power. And one way in which I saw this was local group monitoring of violence during electoral campaigns was backed up by a feminist approach. The monitoring and evaluation of that also had a feminist analysis. The reports from this are fantastic, and they can serve as a model for groups in other countries. I also noticed that when organizations lobby the government on ratifying international peace agreements, in some cases it's been successful. So while there's lots of negative feeling about how receptive the government can be, on some of these issues, it's worked well, and it suggests to me other areas for action. Again, same as in Burundi, I noticed a lack of awareness of international funding and how it works, and a lack of organizational capacity to apply for funding and to develop partnerships. And I think that that can be solved. And most strikingly, more than in other places I visited, there's a willingness to lead international peace work. People are ready to get involved in the peace work of other countries, which is really impressive. So I would like to ask your ideas. So if people speak out now, I'll jot them down while you're speaking. And for the crew from the DRC, if you have any thoughts on what should be the regional strategy around DRC, Rwanda, and Burundi, please speak out now.
The way that we have it set up is people can use the chat box or the Q&A box if they have specific questions. And we do have some questions that have come in, although they were, I think, before your presentation, Shane. I don't know if we want to address those now. I guess I defer to you, Guy, if you want to open up to a broader Q&A.
Yes, we can take question. We still have about 15 minutes to go in this meeting today, so we can dedicate this time to question and answer. So we will not likely go into breakout rooms at initially planned, but I think we can use the time and space now to reflect on what we have listened so far, and yes, shared ideas about Shane's presentation and visit in Africa, and also raise issues of what we think about the challenges. We think we can address the challenges that are being raised today in the African continent. So we are going to Susie's question in the Q&A in the chat is have any mediation or conflict resolution work start in any of these places? Am I seeing the question? I have some issue. Please, Greta, do you see the question? If you can help me read it out, I have some issues to see it.
Yeah, Susie was asking in the Q&A box, have any mediation or conflict resolution works taught in any of these places to all ages turn towards empowering people with the skills to work things out? So if anybody, whether Shane or any of our other speakers, feel free to unmute yourselves to talk about if there is any history of mediation or conflict resolution and whether or not that's been successful.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, in Rwanda, I got to visit several locations where this is happening at a community level. And I didn't get to visit that in Burundi, but I got a very similar picture of that from the meetings that I had. There's lots of local community mediation, finding local leaders, helping people express themselves, discussing conflict within families, between families, at village level communities. So this is this is something that aligns with the development agendas of the governments of both Rwanda and Burundi. And it's good, important work. It's, as far as I could tell, it's limited to that very grassroots village level. And as far as I could tell, it's limited to making representations to a local administrator. This should not be confused with supporting society-wide mediation, or it should not be confused with helping people to speak to leadership or government. Elvis or Guy, would that be your understanding as well, or do you have a different picture to present?
Elvis, are you here? Maybe want to hear from Elvis first. Elvis? You can unmute yourself, Elvis.
I should say, if any of our speakers are having connection issues, feel free to put your answers in the chat box as well, and we can also read those answers off.
Okay. Yes. To come back again on the question itself about any mediation dialogue initiative in Cameroon. Yes, I must say that in Cameroon, within the conflict context within we work, there have been an attempt to dialogue, and it happened 3 years ago, I think. And the dialogue was very criticized because it was organized by the government and not including, as observer could say, all conflicting actors. Everyone concerned by the discussion were not involved in the dialogue. Some of the political actors who could be actively engaged or involved in these talks, some were in prison, and the civil society actors asked for the release of those actors to participate in the dialogue, but the government did not do so. And there are some of the people who were invited to dialogue and presented as fighters who has dropped the guns. And just when they spoke, immediately the next day, the killings started again, and with more atrocity in the conflict affected regions. So the dialogue ended anyway with some of the resolutions. Until now, the implementation of those resolutions have not been effective, and the crisis, I can say, is escalating. And almost every week we have killings in new places that we used to see the killings in the two English-speaking regions only, but today there are other regions who are witnesses the killings, and not far than 3 days ago, 3 or 4 days, there was another killing in the West region. We used to have people displaced from the conflict area to the West region, but now the attacks are now happening in those regions. So the political actors, civil society in Cameroon are calling for another dialogue, another more inclusive conflict resolution mechanism that can include everyone, every actor who can rightly contribute to end the conflict, but it is not happening. And we are worried as the election will happen in 2025 presidential election, and coming with lots of tensions already that can be seen in the political landscape. So we are worried in Cameroon, and yes, thanks to some of the facts that you have presented, Shane, after your visit, we need to strengthen the way we approach the suggestion we make to either to the government or to international partner who can be on any help in this search for peace in Cameroon.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just also wanted to jump in here and just say that the topic of World Beyond War's annual global conference, which happened in September, was actually the focus of it was nonviolent resistance to militarism, wars, and violence. And we had many amazing panel presentations, including one in which PBI participated, as well as Nonviolent Peace Force and CPT. So I'll share the link in the chat for that conference because we have all those recordings, and I think it would be very useful pertaining to this conversation here. And one of the examples that was shared at the conference was the Liberian context, which people may be familiar with, and just the amazing women-led peace movement there that helped to end the civil war using nonviolent means, the story of which is presented in the documentary called Pray the Devil Back to Hell, which is a documentary that we've shown at World Beyond War. So just wanted to jump in to share some of those resources. And again, I'll put the link to the No War Conference on nonviolence in the chat.
Maybe take another question.
Oh yeah, and sorry, I just answered one by typing, and now I see it's disappeared. But maybe I'll answer it more clearly verbally now. So Elliot Adams asked, did we see a space in Cameroon for unarmed protection and accompaniment? Quite possibly. Of the 3 places I visited, it's the one where I see the most potential for it now. Some groups that I met requested it directly. Some groups had really good strategic thinking around how protective accompaniment or a protective presence would work for them. And some groups did not have a very clear idea of it. And some groups said that it wouldn't be needed. So that needs more research and discussion. And the second thing that needs more research is how receptive the state would be to an international protective presence. Like in many cases, it would probably largely be ignored because we're always such a small presence. But for the groups, some of them asked for it for the moral support, that there would be international attention on their work. And some of them saw it as very practical in that an international advocacy network clued into what's happening for them on a daily basis would provide a protective benefit. So that is something I'm very interested in exploring further. And if people would like to continue that conversation with me, please do.
Wonderful. We have a few other questions that are coming in. Here's a question from James, who this is directed to you, Shane. Your research, what you did, seems to suggest that there are capacity constraints on the part of the organizations you met in building partnerships, which could be one of the reasons interventions remain ineffective. Did any of the organizations offer any insights on how to bridge that?
Not for the ones that I met. A lot of people asked where they can get money from, and it's a legitimate request. But even the way of asking and starting from that point suggested to me that that they've had a lot of failures with that in the past and not a strategy of how to go about it. So I think that some partnerships or coalitions or some trainings around how to partner internationally and how to get sources of funding from the global north is needed. And I know from my Peace Brigade's work, often we're bumping into funders who say they don't want to fund international organizations, they want to fund local organizations on the ground. So there's got to be a way of putting these two together, because some donors, not all, have trouble giving away their money, and many organizations are not getting funding. There's got to be a way to put these two together. So could I open this up to others on the call now? Who's good at getting international sources of support, and what skills and knowledge can you share with others?
Any of our speakers, you're welcome to unmute and respond to any of these things. And participants, we encourage you to use the chat box to share your thoughts on these questions as well. And I will say on the question of funding that that is part of the agenda for tomorrow, day 3. We will be hearing a presentation from World Beyond War's Development Director, and Guy asked Alex McAdams to respond to this question. So she'll be sharing some thoughts on fundraising tomorrow.
Yes, thank you, Greta. Any Elvis, Marion, Fatumata, if you want to say something, if you have some few minutes, you can unmute and speak on any of these issues.
I just want to add that I don't really have no idea about it, because I'm always sometimes I'm very skeptical, and I ask myself if it is really possible to get a funding from international organizations, because they have a lot of requirements that are not even essential to really get fund from them. So we struggle, and at the end of the day, we get discouraged. And believe your good ideas and all that.
Thanks. Well, then that should be part of the discussion, right? That what have people's experiences been and what has been, excuse me, my nose, what's been discouraging about it and how do we get over it? And I'm not clear on what the answer is, but doing it in small individual ways is probably not the answer. Oh, I saw James had a second question. And I'm sorry, I don't know because I didn't get to talk with people from the DRC in enough detail to look at the Kenyan-led peacekeeping effort. I'm sorry, I don't know. And if Leon and the others from the DRC have thoughts, I'd really like to hear them.
I see Marian from our Senegal chapter is unmuted. Marian, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I think also what stops us most of the time is that these people, even if they have extremely good intentions, are not always aware of the reality that we're living here. So we all remember that time when they sent a lot of computers and things, which is great. But as you have seen today, we have internet issues and we don't have power most of the time. So generators would have been more useful. You know, I just take this example because it's very real and concrete and our daily struggle. So and in the peace field, we often face the same kind of misunderstanding of what it's really need here on a daily basis. So if we another example, if we speak about terrorism, yes, there is a system to analyze, there is a lot of things, but just know that many young people go to these harm groups just because they serve a meal a day and they are hungry. This is why they go there. So, and how do you explain that to someone who hasn't seen it? So often there is this shift, you know, and the time we explain all that, they have given the money to someone else. So yeah, this is the difficulty we have most of the time.
Yeah. I just want to go to Elvis because I see he's now unmuted. Elvis, did you want to share something?
Okay. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. The problem at the last time was my network, and I'm very sorry for that. So thank you, Mr. Shan, for your sharings. For sure, it is very instructive. And I remember the time we met in Burundi and shared about Burundi, what Burundi activities need to promote peace. I suggested that there is much to do because in Burundi, as we approach to election period, we have to meet young people and some stakeholders just to share with them some skills that can help them in preventing violence. And very soon in 2025, we'll be voting our leaders, and as you know, from 1993, there was democratic election, and after elections, what happened after it was always sabotations. So as you mentioned, we need some we need some skills just that can help us to have some strategies just to be equipped and to go outside and share with students, stakeholders, and others on how we can prevent violence, so we can vote our leaders and peacefully, and yeah, create a culture peace as well. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Elvis. We are just about out of time for today, but I see there is one other question that you wanted to answer, Shane, there. So please just go ahead with that.
Oh yeah, there were two. I think I hit the wrong button. But anyway, James asked, how can conflict be solved when the most prominent people in states are gaining through the conflict? This is a really central question. My short and inadequate response is use non-violent action to raise the costs of violence for them. And so there's lots of strategy and discussion to be had around that. So thinking back to Martin Luther King's strategies, how do you raise the cost of using violence? And I would say that over a very long period of time, we can see that that was somewhat effective in the struggle for self-determination in East Timor. The Vice President of Indonesia and later President suffered a big setback to his image because of the solidarity campaigning on East Timor. In the early years after the Indonesian occupation of East Timor, military officials and generals would get quick promotions. By the 1990s, that had turned around, and it was a disservice to one's career promotion to get posted to East Timor in the Indonesian military. So how do we raise the costs for them? What do other people think about that?
I can just add quickly, kind of from the global perspective at World Beyond War, that I think that this question gets at like the reason why World Beyond War is a global organization, that we need to have everybody around the world advocating for the abolition of war, you know, from those places that are getting bombed, but also from those places where, you know, those countries where they are perpetrating the violence. And, you know, as the question asks, the countries that are gaining in geopolitical and economic terms for their actions, we need to have citizens of those countries say, no, we don't want to have our governments perpetrate this. And so that's the reason behind why World Beyond War is global. And I think that this question also connects to some of our campaigns around divestment and around the arms trade, to call attention to those corporations, what we call the merchants of death, who are profiting from these conflicts. And so that's a big piece of our work as well, both divesting on the personal level, on the institutional level, on the government level from weapons companies, and also doing nonviolent direct actions at weapons corporations' facilities. So that's just a short answer to this complicated question. And I see, Marian, you've also unmuted.
Yeah, I just want to speak a few seconds about the cycle of violence and how it is essential to address all the trauma. If we don't go through reconciliation process, it's just gonna happen again and again, because someone have seen his mother being raped, his family being killed, and so there is revenge somewhere left, and someday it's just gonna go again and again. So all this addressing the traumas, this is a big part of it that we too often forget. So yeah, that's just to break the cycle of violence. This is just what I wanted to add.
Thank you. And so we are out of time. I'm going to pass it back to Guy, our moderator, to close us out for today.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, we apologize for taking more time today, but I think the answers we brought at the end was really necessary. We could not answer all the questions, but we still have one day tomorrow. And tomorrow we will start at the same time you will use the same Zoom link to connect. And we will be online for 1 hour and 30 minutes tomorrow. So you have 19 minutes tomorrow and not 2 hours like yesterday and today. So be here tomorrow.